Om Shanti. Good evening, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to this evening's talk. This is being transmitted to you from Leicester, but I know that many of you are tuning in from probably around the country and possibly around the world. This is a very special time that we're living in. A time that's really making us reflective about ourselves. A time that's isolating us from the world as we know it. And initially, there seems to be a little bit of a reluctance and fear of isolation, especially with the associations that we have right now. But actually, how about translating that word isolation into solitude? And in Hindi, we have a very beautiful word called ekant. To go into the depth of one. And in this case, it's going into the depth of one's own self. Although in a spiritual context, it can also be in going into the depth of the one, the supreme, the divine. So anyway, when we translate this word, isolation, into solitude, then it has a different meaning. Then we can begin to harvest perhaps experiences, opportunities, and insights. And I suppose this particular topic that we are going to explore today is very pertinent to this time, because it's really this time of solitude or isolation before we have the realization of solitude is a period in which we are being revealed to ourselves. That's a strange thing to say, you might say. And the discomfort that we experience in itself is a big revelation to us. And it's at a time like this that we begin to see all the rough edges that cause perhaps friction, perhaps discomfort, perhaps even pain and sorrow to us. And I think that until now, when we didn't have this opportunity for solitude and reflection, we were always very good at pointing outside and making external situations and circumstances and people the cause of our inner state of being. Or it was always something else that could be potentially blamed for my inner state of being. So that's why I think today's topic is an interesting one. The topic is taming a critical mind. So the taming, the critical, and the mind, all three are very interesting aspects and subjects to explore. So, before we start to explore, let's just experience this time of isolation as a time of solitude, time of ekant, a time to go inside ourselves and perhaps become aware of the richness of our inner state of being, as opposed to perhaps the discomfort that has often been there. So let's just become quiet, become present, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. See if you can just sit down quietly whilst the Zooming or webcasts or whatever it is that you're using these days to kind of experience the spiritual connectedness, it can also make us a little bit lazy, if you like, because we hear, but the real energy that really can come from this, that may elude us because we are listening to what's being said whilst cooking, cleaning, driving, whilst having a cup of tea. All of those acts are okay, and there is a necessity for all of them in our lives. But when it's time to focus, to concentrate, to be still, to be focused and giving attention to something significant and meaningful, then I think it's important to sit down. So if you're driving, of course, don't stop unless you can pull up and just become present. Become aware of yourself sitting in this space, whatever that space might be. See if you can allow the sights and sounds to be there, to be aware of them. They can be in the periphery because they all have their place. They're all there. They have to be there. But can you give them permission to be there so that you don't become distracted by those? In fact, you can keep your eyes open, focused in one direction, but sense your ability, in a sense, to have this periphery vision. And yet, there is an internal focus and concentration. And when you have this periphery vision, it's okay. I can see everything that's around. I'm in a good space. There's nobody sitting in front of me because of all of you are sitting there. But I don't have to be distracted by all that might be going on outside. What is it that I sense inside myself as I notice my breath? Can I recognize this breath as that which allows my mind as well as my body, the rhythm of it, become quiet and still. But this rhythm is a rhythm of life. Rhythm between the spirit and matter. Between the matter and all the individual elements. And as I tune into this rhythm, I also become aware of the richness of my own self and my own being. And in this stillness, in a sense, everything disappears. And I begin to notice the beauty of my inner self. The beauty of just being alive, existing, the beauty of light that I am, the beauty of the energy that I am conscious of, the energy of peace, the energy of love. And it is in this space, in this state of being, and I can appreciate who I am and what I can generate. Thank you. Om Shanti. I didn't introduce this word, Om Shanti. Most of you might know it, but there might be one or two who might not. Om means I am, and Shanti means peace. And this is a beautiful state to be in. This state of the essence of peace. So what is it that comes to our minds when we think about criticism? Our mind, somehow, when I hear this phrase that we have for tonight, taming a critical mind, it's as if the mind is some sort of a mechanism that it produces the quality of thinking that it does by itself. That's the idea that comes to my mind when I think about taming a critical mind. And, this word taming, it's as if, it's a wild horse that I have to be tamed, or a wild animal of any kind that has to be tamed. And to some extent that's true, but it's not a language that I feel comfortable with, purely because there is somehow kind of a force, connotations of force or manipulation or even violence, I suppose. So what works for me, generally speaking, is to be able to understand, because my mind is a living, thinking, conscient energy, or the mind is an aspect of I, the living, thinking, conscient, spiritual energy. It's not just a thing on its own. It is part of me. And so how do I understand? Why is it that I find myself constantly looking around and criticizing? And criticizing is really, in a sense, simply put, the tendency of finding faults in everything. Criticizing is it's like nothing is ever good enough. No one is ever good enough. Criticizing is often putting people down. And just when you think about that idea of, nothing is ever good enough, or that the person that you are criticizing, they're not doing something right, they're not looking right, they're not dressing right, they're not speaking right, or good enough. When you do that, what do you do to your own self in that moment? It's something to think about, actually, that when I am criticizing something, I can identify with this idea, actually, because it's even the tendency of thinking something can be done better than the way it is. there is always room for improvement. And I tend to do that myself. And for a long time, I thought that that was a good thing. And it has its advantages and benefit. But actually, puts me, when I do that, it puts me in a deficit position, if you like. Because the energy of seeing glass half empty as opposed to glass half full, that's a metaphor that I'm sure you've all heard before. The glass is half empty. Instead of saying the glass is half full, at least there's some water in the glass. And just that analogy in itself is very good, because if the glass is half empty, it's not good enough for you. You want it to be full. You will do anything to get it full, and you will. There is this sense, this feeling of dissatisfaction inside one's own self, and so. It's a very interesting thing to think about and explore, that this feeling of dissatisfaction. I make something else outside of me a cause of my dissatisfaction inside of me. Is that really the case? Or what I'm really doing is projecting my own already state of dissatisfaction inside of me, finding triggers outside of me to justify my sense of dissatisfaction. This is very curious condition of the human psyche right now. And that's why when I started off at the beginning, I started off with this aspect of isolation or solitude. When I can relate to myself in a way that shows me something about myself, it's because of our tendency of making everything outside a cause of our inner state of being, we become, in a sense, helpless. We become victims of what's happening outside of us. So this idea about that it's, when I look around me, do I look and see what's happening, and then how do I feel? Or do I look inside myself and think, how do I feel? And then see what's outside of me. You will see that if you feel inside yourself that, yeah, I feel fine, I feel good, I feel happy, I feel easy, I feel light, then this energy itself of your ability to generate this, because that's how you feel. You feel happy, you feel light, you feel easy. This ability then is generating the same feeling around you and outside of you. And so it's not possible then to look around you and use that to take yourself away from an already positive feeling and energy, because you are already in that. It's only when I'm not in that state already that I look for things outside of me and feel that when everything outside of me is okay, then I'm okay inside. I can totally relate to this, because I can be like that. And I never realized this about myself until a few years ago, actually. And I started realizing this more in terms of people. That if everybody's okay, if everybody's happy with me, and everybody's thinking that I'm making the right choices and right decisions about what I'm doing with my life or with their lives or with situations and circumstances, then I'm okay. But if I was doing something and I had the sense that others were not happy with it, then I wasn't happy. And this then puts me in a position of dissatisfaction. And then I kind of blame things outside of me. So criticism, the seed of criticism is this internal sense of dissatisfaction, but a sense of unfulfilled way of being, unfulfilled sense of self. And so then I criticize other people and situations and circumstances. So really, here we are. We want to tame this mindset. How do we rein in this mindset? Because, as I said, the thoughts are not just that I say, well, okay, I'm going to stop thinking about it. I'm going to stop thinking. Their thoughts are not in isolation of how I think and how I perceive and how I understand things to be. So it's a very important aspect. And my thoughts are very much related to my emotions. Whereas there's another aspect of my spirit, my psyche, if you like, which is more kind of a deeper, a more sense of myself as a deeper spiritual energy, intuitive, reflective, instinctive, this other aspect of myself. And what I'm doing when I'm overusing my mind is I'm actually I'm pushing that side of me down. And so what we want to do is to be able to bring both of those aspects of ourselves to the surface. And that is to say that we want to be able to bring both the intuitive, the instinctive, this right brain side of ourselves, as well as the left brain side of analytical side, which looks for proof and looks for perfection on things outside of ourselves, to bring those two in a state of balance. But I think what is also very important to honor, I feel, is that whatever it is that I think creates my feelings, and whatever I think and feel and experience creates my vibration and energy. And first and foremost, I do that for my own self. It's like if I'm thinking negatively, if I'm thinking critically about what's outside of me, then I am actually creating that energy of criticism, this negative energy inside my own self. And therefore, what I'm doing is I'm creating this container for my own self, first of all. And I keep myself in this container of this energy of unpleasantness. And so what I really have to understand is that first and foremost, I'm causing damage to my own self. And not to make myself helpless to what's happening outside of me. I need to start saying, I need to make choices. I need to learn to perceive whatever it is in a different way than the way I'm perceiving. Because when I make that commitment, then I can begin to see possibilities, an alternative way of being. Otherwise, I'm a victim of what's happening around me. So one of the first things I think we say in terms of people, our people around us, people that we work with, people that we live with, whoever, everybody is different. Everybody is a unique being. And some have qualities and specialities and uniqueness in one area, and others have it in something else. I have some uniqueness and qualities that some others don't have, and others have something that I don't have. So do I look through my vision of how something should be, someone ought to be, and when I don't see it as the way I think it ought to be, I knock it. I criticize it, or I reject it. rejection is just another form of criticism. And all of these, you can see that these feelings come from my own internal negative sense of my own self. So to understand, to be quiet, to be still, to be an observer, and actually look behind the surface of what I am seeing. Criticisms are normally just on the surface. It's on the top. It's like the waves of the ocean are much on the surface, but actually the depth of the ocean is very quiet and still and very deep. It's very down below. And in order to be able to see beyond what's on the surface, I have to go to that deeper place. So people and situations and circumstances, people particularly in this regard, everyone is unique and they have their own unique beauty. And can I bypass what seems to be on the surface and see what is behind the surface? And often when I look behind the surface, I will find incredible beauty, or I will be able to understand someone's intentions, or even sometimes someone's limited capacity. We all don't have the same massive capacity. And, something that everybody at the end of the day, according to their capacity, is doing the best they can in any given moment. I know it's not so easy for us to kind of take on board always, but it's important to honor each one with that mindset that everybody is doing the best they can at any given moment in time. And also the reality is that none of us really know what goes on inside of people. What is it that makes people do and behave in the way that they do? Here we talk about the soul as an eternal being, this eternal energy. And we all have a long journey of a long time and many lives even. And here I am seeing someone, whether I work with them or whether I have a relationship with them of some sort, I'm seeing a very small part of their journey. It could be thousands of years, and I'm seeing 5 years, 20 years journey. And that little bit of journey becomes something that I'm complaining about. And I just don't know what's happened in their lives or in their life, even this birth, this time round. And I don't know it, but yet I am making assumptions. How easy it is for me to make assumptions. And I'm telling you from my own experience, because it can be very easy to make assumptions about people. Why are they doing that? They must be doing it because of X, Y, and Z. I remember Dadi Janki, some of you will know her, who was the head of the Brahma Kumaris for the last 10, 12 years, 13 years. And she recently passed away just about 3 or 4 months ago. I remember her asking me a question about something. And I said to her, I think it was this, that, and the other. And she said to me, I didn't ask you what you think. I asked you what it was. And if you don't know it, then you just need to tell me, I don't know it. And that's okay. You don't need to feel that you need to give me an answer. It's an interesting thing to think about, because ever since then I remember how often, and I hear this where you ask a question to someone and somebody will make an assumption, or they'll come to you complaining about something and they'll say, oh, but they did this because they must have done that or must have seen that. And it's complete fabrication in their own mind. And so I'm extremely aware that when I listen to people, am I listening to what assumptions or how they think it is, or is it really the way that they're speaking about it? These are small things, and it's important to acknowledge those things, I think, for us to create this spaciousness in our minds, in our hearts. And in this spaciousness, there is a distance between what's happening around us and what's happening inside of us. And therefore, this spaciousness, this distance, this gap creates clarity in allowing us to perceive something for what it is, rather than influenced by our own internal condition or a state of being. This is the thing to really keep in mind. And I think that a practice that's very useful in this day and age particularly is the practice of gratitude. It's a natural, positive state of human condition, human minds. Because when you think about it, just think about it, how everything and everyone and every situation and circumstance is there to serve you. Really. Even if its external manifestation sometimes seems difficult or complicated or not in resonance with what I want in that moment, if I can see that whatever is happening, however someone is being, they're there to serve me. Whatever the situation is, it's there to serve me. And as I say, at that moment, it doesn't feel like it. But if I allow some time, if I allow the space, then I can see. Even if it is to make me humble. Even if it is to allow me to embrace everything and everyone. Even if it allows me to learn tolerance. Even if it allows me the capacity of compassion. It's there to serve me. And speaking about compassion, I feel that in order to stop this habit of criticism, start being compassionate. Firstly, compassionate with my own self. Seeing what are the aspects that I give myself a hard time about. You know, when I have expectations of other people to be in a certain way or do something in a certain way, it's because I have the same for myself. I have those same expectations of my own self. And so gratitude for who I am. Gratitude for what I am. Gratitude for what I have. Grateful for everything. And there's always, always, always two sides to a story. There's never just one side to any story. And so for my gratitude for my own self, there might be certain aspects that are not advantageous. But that's okay. It's when I begin to see the possibility of what I can learn, where I can grow. Because learning is very much very important in our development. And it's not that as human beings we ever stop developing, I think. I was telling someone just a few days ago that, what really excites me is when I think I'm learning, I'm unpacking something, I'm understanding something, and this understanding, it's like opens a window for me, or even if it opens a door, it opens the door, it opens the door for me. And then I can walk through to the other side. And so this ability to understand what's going on is also very important. And I want to come back to this aspect of compassion. At this point in time, everybody needs compassion, kindness, gentleness. And I need to be able to give that to other people, but before I give that to other people, I need to be able to give that to my own self. And for that, I need to take time. I need to take time to take myself beyond. If I also feel at this time, it's not about unpacking what's all wrong with me, how it is that I can understand my negativity so that I can begin to develop positivity. I don't think we have time for that anymore. I think that it's time for us to lift ourselves from all that doesn't work for us. And I mean mentally lift ourselves. And therefore separating our consciousness that's so absorbed in all of these things, lift ourselves up in the practice of ourselves as this pure, unconditional spiritual energy. And when we lift ourselves up with this, then this energy, in a sense, wipes the slate of my mind clean. And I need to do that in a very powerful way. It's not a one-off experience. It's not something that I do once a day or once off and that's it, it's done. It doesn't work like that. I have to do that consistently, as many times in the day, but also assign time to do it powerfully on a regular basis, where I'm giving a stretch of time to this so that I lift myself from this negative state of being, or also the negative conditions that are around me, in this pure, loving, peaceful, spiritual energy. Scientists now do research and say that as you lift your consciousness up in this way, then you are able to reprogram your brain. You reprogram your brain to be whatever it is that you want it to be. So if there's a certain aspect of yourself that you really don't want to, you want to rewrite the script, so to speak, you can rewrite your script. Now is the time. And now I say now is the time because we have so much spiritual possibilities right now. Up until this time, I think it was always available to or possible for us. But now is the time, because everything is getting to its extreme. And the only way to shift things is to just, quantum leaps we have to make. And it's time to make quantum leaps. And it's possible for us to make quantum leaps right now. And so this quantum leap is this awareness of myself as this pure, peaceful, loving, spiritual energy. And as I spend time in that awareness, then I'm also able to, in a sense, feel and experience that clean state of being. And my attraction to this grows. My attraction, I'm being pulled to be in that state over and over and over again, as much as I possibly can. And the more I identify with that, then it's like, I have this image that it's like I am able to make home my own self. I'm able to myself is my own home. Myself is my own state of assurance. My own self is my state of dignity and honor and grace. And this is a beautiful state to be in. When I am in that state, then I'm also able to look around me and offer that. I'm more concerned about offering what is inside of me than to look around and think, oh, this is right or this is not right. You know, the other thing that actually makes us very critical, I think, in my experience also, is that we live our lives the way other people want us to live. And so it's like we seek approval from other people. We seek acceptance from other people. We seek praise and recognition from other people through how we are and what we are being. And I mean in terms of, do I look right? Is my house right? Is my car right? Is everything in my house the way other people would want it to be? And they would come and they would go, what an amazing place it is. All of those kinds of things, really. And if we live our lives in that way, it's like our foundation is very fragile. Our internal state of being is on a very fragile foundation, because human beings today will praise me and accept me and recognize me. Tomorrow, they'll be ready to throw me off course. Not necessarily because I'm always wrong or I'm the one who's going to be deserving of it, but because they are dissatisfied themselves. And so really, ultimately for me, the solution to all aspects of negativity is to create this deep inner sense of satisfaction, this deep inner state of foundation that I feel is solid. And I like this word solid even in a spiritual context, because it's like I'm so comfortable with it. I'm so at home in it that nothing can take that away from me. And I feel also an aspect that helps us to recognize the divisiveness of criticism is that I don't like to be criticized. I want to be acknowledged. I want to be seen for who I am. And when I say seen for who I am, not necessarily that, acknowledged for my specialities and my goodness and my uniqueness, but see who I am beyond that. I am who I am beyond what's on the surface of myself. And everybody wants to feel the same. And criticism stops that. Criticism does not allow people feel being seen, feel being heard, feel being understood. And so, and it's in that regard that I always think about my own relationship and my connection with God. God as this constant, loving, pure, soft, always available energy. Deeply, deeply peaceful. Completely easy. And when I feel myself in that presence, I feel everything is okay. Everything is going to be okay. Everyone is okay. And everyone will be okay. And in that state, I also feel seen. I'm okay. Everybody's okay. Not just okay. excellent. Because as this conscient, living, thinking, spiritual energy, we all make a contribution. We make a huge contribution. But we just have to make sure that we make the right kind of contribution. Contribution, and I say contribution, but what I mean is actually this emanating. I am exuding what I feel inside, what I think inside. And when I do that, I'm offering. If I bring a conscious thought into it, thinking I'm going to do this, now suddenly it's as if you can switch it on and off at your will. Well, you can't switch it on and off at your will. You can, but then it's not going to be real. It's going to be pretense. Or you are kind of conjuring up your energy to be able to do that. But actually I have to work on really being conscious of this deep internal positive state, this internal profound spiritual state, and know that it is doing the work. That's all. And acknowledge that, in a sense, criticism is one thing, but all aspects of my own negativity comes from my own negative experiences. And because of my discomfort of those negative experiences, I want to escape those negative experiences. And the only way I can escape those negativities is lay it on someone else, lay it on what's outside of me. So the moment I find myself laying something on anyone else and someone else outside of me, let me just turn it inside. I was listening, someone I was listening to who shared an interesting experience. I've forgotten now, but they were talking about some negative behavior of theirs in relation to someone else, and that they realized actually they were doing it to themselves. They were doing it because that's how they feel about themselves. So anyway, let's just have a few minutes of silence together, meditation. We're not going to have an opportunity to share thoughts, to hear from all of you, but let's just be together. There's someone I know who says, let's breathe together. Because I think, and maybe I'm talking about my own self only, that we don't breathe with the rhythm of life. We're always going at a different pace than the pace of life. Nature, elements, everything they have their own time and season. I was driving once and I remembered, I said to myself, okay, slow down, just slow down. And it was more in terms of I'm thinking a lot about that for my own self, that how can I slow down? How can I stop the, racing of everything, always constantly doing, constantly engaging, constantly making things happen, thinking about making things happen. But in actual fact, it's not about that. It's about responding. I was driving, so I was telling about driving, and I suddenly came into a 20-mile-an-hour speed zone. And I just thought, okay, well, I got to slow right down, and that everything moves at 20 miles an hour. If everything else is moving 20 miles an hour and I'm going 50 miles an hour, then what's going to happen? That's when crashes happen. And when crashes happen, they happen badly. And so to catch the rhythm of life. And now what are we being taught? We're really being taught to slow down our rhythm of life. And in that process, actually get in touch with our deeper selves. Stay connected with our deeper selves. Connect with the divine. And bring a different pace. So, once again, if you've moved, if you've started to become distracted by doing something, I'll suggest that you sit down, become quiet, sit alert. Generally, if you were here, we would tell you to keep your eyes open, rested on this point that you see behind me, or even just wherever, resting your eyes in one place. Notice yourself become still. And that make sure that you become still, because it's very easy for us to become distracted. When you're deliberately still, deliberately notice your energy change. And as you notice your stillness and your energy change, notice your breath. Breath and its rhythm. Incredibly soft, incredibly regular. Incredibly rhythmic. As if you're getting in touch with your whole being. And your whole being here is your spiritual energy, but also the energy that is in your own physical body too. It's amazing. This body is an amazing machinery that's working at an amazing pace. Just think about that blood racing through your every blood vessel, miles and miles of it too. And yet you know nothing about it. You don't have any physical sensation of it. And so just with that awareness, let your awareness rest in yourself. Appreciate your thinking, living, conscient mind. This mind that's not just a machine but an energy that is so vast and yet profoundly and deeply peaceful. Hold yourself. Let yourself make home inside your own self. It's when there is a place of comfort and ease within one's own self that one can only perceive that outside. I am a spiritual energy, powerful and unique, as is everyone else in my life and in my world. Each has their own journey that I know very little or almost nothing about. And I let them be. I give them permission to be exactly who they are and what they are. Let me choose patience. Let me slow down my pace of life. So that I can tune into others, tune into what's happening around me, and be in sync with it, instead of wanting to be something else other than what it is. And it is here that I invoke the presence of God, the divine, the spiritual being. Soft, gentle, vast energy. I'm held by that love. I'm held by that unconditional vision. Vision of my own beauty, my own truth. And it is this that gives me the assurance that everything is just the way it's meant to be. And as this is right, as it should be. And my own ability to accept and see that takes me to a place of peace. Om Shanti. Thank you for being with us this evening. Thank you for your time. And I hope that perhaps just one thing there might be in this exploration that may help you. At the end of the day, I think it's important to remember that it's not a switch that you can flick on and there is light. It's consistent work. You have to keep looking at yourself, keep watching yourself, keep noticing, keep catching yourself doing what you don't really want to do and being what you don't want to be anymore. And hold the vision that you will not be that. So thank you. Om Shanti. Enjoy the rest of your evening.